I was sitting at my desk on a routine Tuesday afternoon when my phone rang with a call from the branch manager at First National. Her voice wasn't warm. It was low, urgent, and precise. A $450,000 refinance just closed on your property yesterday, she said. My stomach dropped into abyss. I didn't authorize a refinance, I whispered. There was a heavy pause on the line before she replied. Your parents did. And the wire transfer is scheduled to hit their offshore account in less than an hour. I drove straight to the bank, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. When the manager slid the closing documents across her desk, she pointed to an ink-written name at the bottom and went completely pale. This signature, it's not yours, she said slowly, picking up her phone. I'm freezing everything right now. But when police searched their house, what they found hidden behind the drywall changed everything. Follow my story until the end, and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Chloe, and at 28 years old, I thought I had finally built the quiet, secure life I'd always dreamed of. 2 years ago, after 6 years of relentless 80-hour work weeks as a senior graphic designer, saving every spare dollar and skipping vacations, I bought my very first home. It was a charming 3-bedroom craftsman house nestled on a tree-lined street, a physical proof that my sacrifices had paid off. For as long as I could remember, my parents viewed my accomplishments not as my own, but as community property. Whenever I achieved something, whether it was landing a promotion or buying a reliable car, their response was never praise, it was an expectation. They believed that because they raised me, anything I earned was legally and morally owed to them. When I purchased the Craftsman, my mother immediately suggested that I put both of their names on the deed, just in case. I firmly declined, holding my boundary for the first time in my life. But 6 months ago, when my father had a minor health scare, my guilt got the better of me. I gave them a spare house key, purely for emergencies so they could check on my dog if I was ever stuck at work. That single act of trust, rooted in childish optimism, became the key that unlocked my absolute ruin. It was a normal Tuesday afternoon when the call came. I was sitting at my desk, deep into a brand redesign project, when my phone buzzed on the wooden tabletop. The caller ID displayed the name of my primary bank, the institution holding my original mortgage. I tapped the screen, expecting a routine confirmation about an automated payment or an account update. Instead, the branch manager's voice came through, unusually cold and tight with tension. Chloe, I need you to confirm something right away. A cash-out refinance for $350,000 on your primary residence was approved and finalized yesterday. My stomach dropped into a bottomless pit. The air left my lungs in a sharp gasp.
What?
I never applied for a refinance, I whispered, gripping the desk so hard my knuckles turned white. There was a long, heavy pause on the other end of the line. I could hear the faint click of a keyboard before she spoke again, her tone dropping an octave. Chloe, 2 people walked into our regional office yesterday morning with a notarized power of attorney, your property deed, and your personal identification details. I didn't even pack my bag. I ran straight out of the office to my car, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. 15 minutes later, I was sitting in the manager's glass-walled office, my hands shaking uncontrollably. She turned her computer screen toward me and opened a scanned file. On the digital document was my name, printed alongside a jagged, unfamiliar signature and an official notary seal. The seal belonged to a local notary whose office happened to be right next to my father's business. This signature isn't mine, I said, my voice cracking with horror. It's a complete forgery. The manager went pale. Without a second thought, she grabbed her desk phone, dialed 3 digits, and barked into the receiver. Put an emergency fraud hold on the $350,000 wire transfer immediately. Leaving the bank, my blood was boiling with a mixture of rage and sheer disbelief. I drove straight to my parents' house in the suburbs, pulling into their driveway so fast the tires screeched against the pavement. Through the large front window, I could see the dining room light glowing warmly. They were sitting at the table, clinking glasses of expensive champagne, laughing like they'd just won the lottery. They were celebrating my destruction. I didn't bother knocking. I threw the front door open, letting it slam against the wall. The laughter died instantly. My mother set her crystal flute down, adjusting her sweater with practiced calmness, while my father leaned back in his chair, a smug smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Chloe," my mother said, her voice dripping with synthetic warmth. "What a pleasant surprise. We were just— You forged my signature," I snapped, my voice shaking as I hurled the printout of the fraudulent deed onto the table, right between their dinner plates. "You stole my identity, leveraged my home, and tried to strip $350,000 in equity right out from under me." The fake caring masks dropped in a fraction of a second. My father's eyes turned cold, his jaw setting hard as he stood up, towering over the table. "Watch your tone in my house," he sneered. "We raised you for nearly 3 decades. We sacrificed everything so you could get that fancy design job. That equity isn't just yours, Chloe. It's family property. You owed us this." "It's a crime," I yelled, tears of anger stinging my eyes. "It's grand larceny and fraud," my mother scoffed, sipping her champagne. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. The papers are signed, the deal is closed, and the money hits our account tomorrow morning. There's nothing you can do about it now." They sat there looking utterly untouchable, smugly confident in their entitlement, completely unaware that the wire had already been frozen. I left their house without saying another word about the frozen wire, driving back to my place in a state of hyper-focused adrenaline. My first stop was meeting a local locksmith, whom I paid double to immediately rekey every exterior door. I wasn't going to let them step foot on my property ever again. Once the locksmith left, I stood alone in my quiet hallway, trying to figure out how they had pulled off such a seamless identity theft. They needed my original property title, tax documents, and social security number. I walked into my home office and began going through my filing cabinet. That's when I noticed the lock on the bottom drawer was slightly scratched, forced open with a tool and carefully pushed back into place. Inside, tucked beneath my old college diplomas, was a thick manila folder my parents had accidentally left behind in their rush. As I pulled it out and opened it, my blood ran cold. It contained copies of my forged signature on multiple practice sheets, a rubber stamp with a corrupt notary's seal, and detailed blueprints for a luxury beachfront villa in Costa Rica, a property they were planning to buy with my equity. But buried at the very bottom was an email printout that turned my stomach. It was an exchange between my father and a senior loan officer at the bank's regional branch. They hadn't just forged my name, they had an insider helping them bypass the secondary verification checks. My parents weren't acting alone. They were part of a coordinated scheme to strip my home of every cent it was worth. Discovering the insider email changed the entire game. My knee-jerk reaction was to call the police immediately, but I knew that with a corrupt loan officer involved, my parents and their accomplice would quickly spin a story about a family misunderstanding. I needed undeniable proof. The next morning, I met with a forensic fraud attorney and a detective from the Financial Crimes Unit. Together, we designed a plan to catch all 3 of them in the act. I called my mother, forcing my voice to sound defeated, panicked, and desperate. "Mom," I sobbed into the receiver, playing the part of the broken daughter perfectly. "The bank flagged the wire because of a missing secondary verification form. They told me that unless I come in with you and Dad to sign a physical release form in person, the $350,000 will be completely canceled and returned." On the other end of the line, I heard my mother catch her breath. Greed instantly blinded her to any suspicion. "I knew you'd come around, Chloe," she said, her tone dripping with fake maternal superiority. "We'll meet you at the main downtown branch tomorrow morning at 10 sharp. Don't be late." They fell for it completely. Their own arrogance and desperate greed made them walk right into the trap we had set.